Hi everyone. So I'm gonna do the first things first, just to show you how I would approach this. And this is the first time I've ever done this. So you're gonna see me make my mistakes, and I'm gonna talk through what I was trying to do and what I actually ended up figuring out how to do. So the first thing I did was download both files and open them up, and I'm trying to one's like the directions and one is like the final product, what the final product should look like. So I'm doing like tabbing in between, and I have both of these set up like this, and I'm going to do the command tab just to switch between programs really quick, which you'll see me do. And then I'm going to sit there and read the stuff. So InDesign, I'm going to open up a new document. I'm going to click on the presets for print. I'll make sure that my measurements are inches instead of picas, because what's a pica, right? I mean, I know, but you don't know. And nor really should you know, unless you're going into graphic design. And then I'm having to figure out, I can set the margins and the columns in this kind of pre-set up area here. So I'm going to set for 9 columns, which will give me 9 columns. And then I'm going to set this for 0.75. And let me show you what happens. And I couldn't figure out what happens when I did this. I got this box here, and I was like, man, that was not supposed to happen. What? You see me going, what is that? What am I doing? So I closed that box. I'm like, okay, obviously I messed something up. Let's do it again. So inches instead of picas, 8.5 by 11, yes, check. 9 columns, check. I'm gonna preview it so that I can see. I was like, oh, what is it doing? So I look and I notice I put 7.5 inches in the margin instead of 0.75. So that's where I messed up. And not there, you see me realizing it now. It's like, God, that's so stupid. But you do stupid stuff like that. And as soon as that you finish that and you do that, and then, oh, that looks correct. And then I hit return and I'm like, good. Okay, so I'm, counting the columns there, just kind of making sure everything looks right. And I'm looking at all the different things. I'm like, okay, what do I do next? What do I do next? I go back to my instructions, and it says save document. So I'm going to copy the file name, and you can see my modifier keys being used. And then I'm going to do save as. I'm going to paste that file name and put my first name and last name in there per the instructions. And then I'm just going to hit save. And now I don't have to worry about naming it or whatnot. So I'm going to tab over to Firefox here and look to see, okay, so basically now I just have to do the thing. I have to read the instructions, look at the thing, and do the thing. So I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to looky here, then I'm going to copy the text, which is at the bottom. So Command C to copy. Command tab to go to the thing, and then with T, which is my text box, I'm just going to draw a box and then paste it in my type into those boxes. So the thing about InDesign, which is so fantastic, InDesign is such a powerful tool, and it's like driving the space shuttle to the market to buy a Coke. I mean, it's really what we're doing here. It's just so basic and so simple. But it really does, once you get used to it, it makes things so easy to lay out that if you try to lay out anything like in Word or Pages, it sucks and you hate life because you can't do what you can do in InDesign. All right, so here is me trying to figure out how big to make my text boxes. Where do they go? And so I'm going to go between the selection tool and the text tool. And one of the problems with doing that is that I constantly want to hit A to go to my selection tool, but if I have the text tool open, I'm just going to end up typing A. So you'll see me do that a lot here, and it's really freaking frustrating. I had to get in a habit of when I want out of the type tool to go into the move tool or the selection tool, I have to actually hit the escape key. So anytime that you're doing text, always hit the escape key to get you out of that text tool, and then you can use whatever keyboard function to call up your next tool. And it just took me a while to catch on. So I am here trying to figure out, I go back and forth a lot. And before I actually got kind of wise and just did side by side, I just went back and forth. But, you know, it worked. So I copied that, put that there. I'm going to draw another text frame. So text box, text frames, like I was saying, in InDesign, everything is a frame. Your images go into frames, your text goes into frames. You're not really creating, you're just organizing things that you've already created. So I've already created this text and I'm just putting it in a text frame in order to, you know, organize it. Now, if you see, I hovered over that little plus red on the bottom right. Anytime you see that, and you should have like watched the videos, anytime you see that little red box, that means you have overflowing text. It means all of your text is not showing. So when you're laying stuff out, the goal is not to have that little red box show, because it means that you have hidden information somewhere. So now I'm just saving, Command S, and I am copying, pasting, and just getting all my content. So before I start designing anything, I'm really just kind of putting everything on the palette here. In InDesign T on the keyboard, and it's not showing up here because it only shows modifier keys being used in this program. But you'll see that's the escape sign. So me hitting escape to get into the move tool or the selection tool. And I can paste things and move them off the main area if I'm not using them, just so that I don't get visually overcrowded. It's kind of like, you know, getting everything nice and organized in front of you, and then I'm going to come in and do the thing. So again, save. Once I got all the information there, I'm flipping back over to my set of instructions here. The instructions are actually like the written in part here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this title. And about this point, when I'm doing this, I'm realizing that I cannot remember like 5 seconds out. It's like I can look in the instructions, and then by the time I flip over to InDesign, it's gone. And at this point, I'm realizing I am about to waste a lot of time being stupid and going back and forth and trying to memorize stuff. So obviously I haven't hit that point yet. So what I'm doing here is I'm in my properties panel, which is the main panel that shows when you do the reset your workspace to essentials, which I recommend you do. And really, you don't have to open up any panels besides just these property panels to work, because they pretty much give you everything there. Oh, and this, see, y'all, I'm getting wise here. I'm going like, this is utter bull. I cannot remember for 5 seconds. So I really literally need to have the instructions to the right and my workspace to the left. And if I didn't do this, I would probably print out that first things first on the right so that I could sit there and look at it while I'm trying to work in InDesign. All right. So I'm using the contextual menus, or the contextual information over on the right to set all the things. So I'm setting Helvetica, I'm setting bold. If you hover over like the little icons, if you don't know what's tracking and what's letting, you can just hover over it and it'll tell you, hey, this is tracking, hey, this is letting. And you can see there's my red box, and I noticed that I've got a little thing there, so I'm moving stuff down so it fits better. And then I'm going to select that again, and there's this cool little thing that lets you change your cases without having to type anything in, so I can set this to lowercase. And you want to control your cases that way. You don't want to have to, like, when somebody gives you information, you want to be able to control your cases through InDesign, because I may want everything lowercase here, and another designer may want everything uppercase. And InDesign lets you change that with the click of a button instead of having to retype, because having to retype is just a pain. And then I went in and just added the color like I was supposed to. And now I'm going to work on the 1964, which is Helvetica Bold. So I'm going to scroll down or up to Helvetica. So one of the big things, or the big thing, well, one of them, about InDesign, like I said, it's the space shuttle that we are trying to do this little thing on. Like, we're trying to go buy us a Coke at the convenience store, and we're going to take the space shuttle. I mean, it does so much. But one of the things that you can't do is you can't do like a Command I for italicized, or you can't do Command B for bold. In graphic design, type is designed. So if you try to fake like a bold by just adding line weight, it's going to mess up the actual design of the type, which is a big no-no in graphic design. So you have to literally, like, Helvetica Bold is a separate typeface. It is like designed for a thicker typeface, just like Helvetica Oblique or italicized or italic is a separate typeface from Helvetica Normal or regular. It was designed specifically for the angle to make sure it fits perfectly in that space. And so when you're like wanting to bold something, you have to like have that typeface available. And if that typeface does not have a bold or italic, then you cannot have that bold or italic because it wasn't designed that way. So just keep that in mind. Okay, what am I doing here? Oh, okay. So I have my text frame, and once I have everything laid out, and you're going to see me do this several times, I'm going to right click, and that's what I just did. I'm going to right click and go to fitting, and I can actually shrink my text frame to my content. I don't have to, but it helps keep things nice and organized. So here you see me, I'm just drawing a box. You can just draw a regular box and then fill it with the color, and that's all I'm doing here for that 10% black. And where do I put it? I'm just leaving it there, and it doesn't really have, like, I'm eyeballing, it doesn't have an exact weight listed. So I'm really kind of just eyeballing to see how thick that line is, or that box is, or where it needs to go. And once I finish that bottom part, I can show you one of the things, or I will show you one of the things that InDesign does a really great job of as far as laying stuff out. All right, so next text block, I'm going to start reading. It's Helvetica Light, which is a different typeface. It's 8 point in size. The leading is 13 points. The black is 80%. So Helvetica Light, which I do have. And then 8 points. And then leading should be 13 points. And let's see. And then I'm comparing. And I'm making sure, like, there's no tracking. Oh, so one of the things it's saying is no hyphenation. So I'm looking for the hyphenation part, and hyphenation is under paragraphs. So you click on the three little buttons there for paragraphs, you'll see the little check box for hyphenation, and just turn the hyphenation off. The general rule of thumb for hyphenation is that you don't want to have more than three things hyphenated, like on a page or in a block of text, just because it just doesn't read well. It's hard to read. So I am double checking to make sure I've got all the things done right. And it looks like I am. Then I'm going to, one thing I don't have is I had my text block like too large. It was going over 4 columns instead of 3. And here we go, fit frame to content. And that zips up that frame to the content nice and neatly, and it makes me keep things organized. Now I'm just zooming in here and using my hand tool to navigate so I can look closer and deal with this. There's a little call out color here that's with the Guardian, and I'm trying to find where that text is right here. Of course, it's in the second paragraph, and that was like really stupid of me to look in the first paragraph. So with that said, I'm like, I'm not going to do 2 text frames for this. I'm going to keep everything in the same text frame, but I am going to come over here and try to set a text style or a paragraph style so I don't have to like enter in all these numbers again. And this is me trying to figure out how to do it through the properties menu. I'm used to doing this more through the paragraph styles panel, and it's changed a little bit. So what I did is I clicked the plus right there, and that's going to let me add a new style, and I'm calling this subtext. You can call it whatever you want to, but I'll try to make it something that I can remember. Subtext paragraph. And it's going to keep all of my colors, my typefaces, and whatnot. And then I can just copy or cut that out of there with the Command X, put a space between, and then paste, Command V. And then I got to get rid of that text frame. I've got to open up that text frame. So I'm just going to do a fit frame to content. Then I'm going to select the unstyled text and then just do the drop down and go to subparagraph, and voila, see how fast that was? Again, another awesome thing about InDesign is setting those paragraph and character styles. And then here I am going to do the highlighted, italicized or oblique typeface that's in cyan, but I also see that it was used at the bottom again, so it's like, oh, I'm going to be smart and I'm going to make that a style so I can just go pop and apply it. And if you notice, when I clicked plus, it added it to the whole paragraph. And again, this is me working through why did it add to the whole paragraph. It's because when you have a style that's inside a paragraph, it's actually a character style. And it's just taken me like this. I'm still thinking, oh, I'm going to be okay here. And I'm like, why is all of this, not working? And then as soon as I like do this and go through subparagraph, I'm like, oh, that's why. It's not a paragraph style. It is a character style. So I'm like, well, fine. I still haven't gotten the clue here. I'm looking at all the things and I'm kind of just cussing to myself in my head. And I'm like, okay, it's a character style. It's a character style. So let's just go ahead and do this again. Change it to blue or cyan. All right. And then add that character style, which I did right there. And I'm like, okay, let's call this sub character style. And now we are cooking. So I can just go and highlight down there at the bottom. And of course, if it was just two things, it probably wouldn't have been worth doing the style, because I could have applied the style by hand a lot quicker than me trying to figure out how to do the character style. But if I was doing multiple documents or a really long document and I needed like certain things to be highlighted and in the same size and same typeface, then styles come in handy, definitely. So watch this. So I'm going to move. Well, actually, I duplicated that. But if you notice at the top, when I moved that little bar, it automatically tells me when I'm like equal distance from one side to the other. So it lets me like line things up very easily by just kind of eyeballing. And then once I hit that perfect place, it tells me visually to let go of the mouse, and I do, and then it'll put it there where I want it put. So I'm finishing up this left side column with the source. And because these two typefaces are different, I'm not going to create styles. They're only used right here. So I'm setting the Helvetica bold, putting in all the information, changing it to, what is it, 20% black, making it small, setting the tracking. So tracking is just the spacing between each character. And you have tracking and you have kerning. Kerning is the space between two characters, where tracking is spacing that's added to all your characters that are highlighted. Oh, and if you notice there, I did the quick little change case to uppercase because that is magic and I love it. And then I'm just going to set this real quick. And then once that's set and the tint has changed, I'm going to go to the move tool and move it down to the bottom so it lines up with my bottom margin. I'm going to fit it. Fitting, fit frame to content. Another one of my favorites. Now watch this. See, it shows me when I'm equal distance from the top paragraph and the bottom paragraph. It's just magic. Save. All right, moving to the next. And a lot of times when you have these longer text blocks, you know, you can just apply it all at once, which is nice. So I'm going to select all. I'm going to change it to Helvetica regular, which is really just Helvetica. Point size to 9. Letting the space between each sentence or each line of text. It's already black 100. It's all lowercase. And then it says no hyphenization, so I clicked that, but watch what happens. You're going to see me look at this because I'm going to compare like where it ends in a word and where it ends like in the column. And because, like I said, this is the first time I've done this, it kind of throws me for a bit because it's not perfect. And I can't figure out why the right side column looks different than the left side column. And I'm looking over on the right side, and I can see they have hyphenations over on the right. So they didn't follow their own instructions. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to hyphenate. So I'm not going to count off if you hyphenate or if you don't hyphenate. So I'm just going to turn the hyphenations back on, and then you can see my text blocks fill out a little bit better, which I'm cool with that. I'm just going to keep it. It still looks not quite identical, but it's close enough. And then now I'm going to fit that text box to the content and do my next text or my final text frame. You'll hear me say text block, text box, text block, text frame. It's all the same thing. It's where the text goes. Yeah, there we go. Put to frame, and now I'm going to draw my final. Oh, I already did. Remember, it's over on the right. So I'm going to pull that over. So the tricky thing about this one is that it's 3 columns. So I'm going to set the text first. It's Helvetica bold, 6.5 point, leading 15, tracking 10. Oh, and it's in cyan. And now, how to put it into, well, we have to make it all uppercase because it is all uppercase. I'm going to select all. I'm not going to hyphenate, and all uppercase. Now, to put this into 3 individual columns inside a text, it's actually the text frame option. And I do this, like I love like doing columns within a text frame like this, but I always forget like how to get to it and what it's called. So there it is right there, text frame options. You click on that and it's going to ask you for the number of columns. So I'm going to say 3, fixed number, and say okay, preview, make sure it looks right. Say okay. So now all I have to do is shrink my text block, text frame, whatever, to make it mirror the right. So I went too far because I got my little red plus at the bottom right saying that I've got text that runneth over. And that looks okay, but if you look on the right, my names are flush with the margin. So I'm just going to fit frame to content and then bring that down, and we are done. So it's hard to tell between the two. Let me go to the original, or the one that's already done. And this is me just looking things over and then finding, there it is. So if I want to compare, and it's hard to compare with all my guides in the way. So if you just hit W on the keyboard, your W hides your guides. I'm going to do a Command 0 to fit everything in my window. There we go. Show all, and then W. W lets you look at everything. And of course, I mean, it's smaller in size and scale over on the left. So it's going to be a little bit different looking at it. And then the JPEG. But it's pretty darn close, and maybe a few minor tweaks, but that's how you do first things first. Good luck, y'all.